What to do if you're pulled over by the police. Hey guys, attorney Zach Ritchie here to talk to you today about if Indiana is a stop and ID state. Meaning, do you have to identify yourself when being pulled over, even if it's for a simple traffic infraction, such as rolling through a stop sign, running a red light, or speeding? So if you were pulled over, do you have to identify yourself to the police officers? In short term, if you're driving a car that is pulled over, yes. You do have to identify yourself when the officer approaches your vehicle and asks you to do so. You can do this by either providing your driver's license or your name, address, and date of birth. In some states, you are required to have your driver's license, but in Indiana, you can provide your officer with your name, address, and date of birth, and the police officer can look up your information that way. Once stopped, the officer is allowed to detain you long enough to gather your information, inform you for the reason of the stop, and have you sign a traffic ticket if they decide to issue one for the violation that they have stopped you for. A question we sometimes get is, what happens if I don't identify myself? Well, the police can charge you with refusing to identify yourself. In Indiana, that is a Class C misdemeanor, which can carry a maximum sentence of 60 days in jail and a fine of $500. If you are a passenger in a car, this can change things just a little bit. If you're a passenger and you haven't done anything, the police cannot demand that you identify yourself since you have committed no violation that would give them reason to ask you for your identification. If they do ask you, it is merely a request, and you have no obligation to give them your identification. However, there are situations where a police officer can ask a passenger of a vehicle for their identification. For example, if you're a passenger in a car and you throw trash out the window, that is a violation, and at that point, a police officer can pull that car over and ask you to identify yourself. Another situation in which you may be a passenger in a vehicle but still be required to identify yourself is if the police pull your vehicle over in which you're a passenger in and smell an odor of marijuana. At that point, the officer has no idea where that exact smell is coming from. Is it coming from the driver? Is it coming from the passenger? So at that point, the officer is within his right to ask you, the passenger, for your ID. Remember, even if you don't have your ID on you, you can still provide the officer with your name, address, and date of birth, and they can look up your information that way. You do not need to have your physical state identification on you. Even if you are a passenger and have committed no violation, you must still comply with all officers' instructions to either sit tight or exit the vehicle. If you fail to do so, you can be charged with resisting law enforcement, which in Indiana is a Class A misdemeanor. The best thing you can do if you catch yourself in this situation is to be polite without giving the officer more information than you have to. If you would like to record the interaction with your cell phone, you are well within your rights to do so. Remember though, in a criminal proceeding, the deck is always stacked against you. If you're facing criminal charges and are in need of a criminal attorney, please give us at the Marc Lopez Law Firm a phone call, 317-632-3642, and always remember, plead the fifth.